Adriana was unique because she was instrument maker and artist in one person.
She was the player's maker. She listened to me and my needs.
Etwas, was Adri insbesondere ausgezeichnet hat, dass sie gerne neue Wege gegangen ist.
She was very spiritual and dedicated to the flute. So I think she inspired me.
She was somebody who existed almost half in a different realm. You know, she's in this kind of dream realm, and I like to spend a lot of time there as well.
So Adi also got to know her as a very inventive person, daring to try new things.
She was looking very carefully into who you were as a personality and a player and how you navigate an instrument.
Ze heeft vaak verteld dat ze niet naar het conservatorium ging om blokfluitist te worden, maar ze wilde blokfluitbouwer worden.
Heb ik het altijd gewild om een fluit te verbeteren. En toen vond ik het al vreselijk hoe dat klonk, zo'n fluitje. En toen was ik 16, toen kocht ik in Utrecht bij een fabriek een blokfluit. Dacht ik, als je dat toch zou kunnen maken, weet je wel. Dat vond ik het meest leuke wat was. Nou, dat wist natuurlijk niemand hoe je dat moest worden. Toen ben ik op blokfluit gaan studeren en dat ging allemaal wel goed. Maar toen kwam ik in Den Haag, aan het conservatorium. En toen was daar een heel beroemde blokfluitbouwer, die kwam daar lesgeven. Frederick Morgan. We hadden allemaal een kopie gemaakt van de instrument van Frans Brugge. Dus we zijn met het hele klasje naar Frans Brugge toegegaan. En we hebben dat allemaal, onze fluiten ernaast. En dat dan allemaal vergeleken en de middenstukken veranderd. Maar we waren zo totaal teleurgesteld. Dat we onze kopieën haalden het niet bij het origineel. We hadden nog heel veel te leren.
After more than 10 years acquiring skills making Baroque recorders, Adriana shifts her attention to making Renaissance recorders, which at the time are not that common. To her, they are beautifully crafted, honest instruments, intended to be played together in a consort. And as awareness grows that for consort playing you need the appropriate instruments, Adriana is among the few people specializing in making consort recorders based on historical originals. Therefore, measuring and making accurate drawings of museum originals forms an essential part of her creative process. When in 1997 recorder player and teacher Paul Leenhouts forms an ensemble with students of the Amsterdam Conservatory to perform Renaissance music, he needs many Renaissance recorders for it, and Adriana becomes the main supplier of his Royal Wind music. Today, Paul Leenhouts is head of department at the University of North Texas. Among his responsibilities are running a Baroque orchestra, working with a small choir, arranging repertoire for the present strings, wind and keyboard instruments, and composing programs for performances. In the field of Renaissance recorder consort, he is an authority.
For me, the birth ground of the recorder is the 16th century. There's no other wind instrument family from that time who got that large. I really had a strong longing, and especially with a new generation, my students in Amsterdam, to set something up. Mm-hmm. And at first I thought, maybe sextet, and then I thought, why not a double sextet? But then I thought, 12 people is maybe not enough. So I need one additional, and you know, also thinking about the sort of the pyramid model of a concert. It's better to have an extra bass than to double the top, right? So I thought, you know, I need just an extra bass. I didn't want to have a bass with an extension. I wanted to be built like the other instruments, but a fifth lower. Oh, so like it's given in the sources, but
Sources, however, never mention a bass that low. And with no model available, who will be capable and willing to create such a giant instrument from scratch? Harpsichord maker and friend Winfried Hackel supports the idea, and when Adriana as a maker comes on board, a challenging project takes off in Austria. First, a tree is selected and cut down to size. But building a recorder requires design, calculations, specific reamers to be made, fingerhole positions figured out, keywork designed, and it will take a good year before the instrument produces its first sound. It does make her famous though, and an iconic picture of Adriana with the finished instrument starts to decorate many music school classrooms.
to play the very first note, the lowest note, of course, without on it, and I think, wow, this is incredible. It's huge, you know. It's like the recorder itself is over 10 feet, but the S is also over 4 feet. So like you take one breath and you almost die after it. But it made a fantastic sound. Of course, as you can imagine, it's not a loud instrument. Plays by itself, you hardly hear it. But in an ensemble, especially the bass line is doubled, you'll immediately miss it when it's not playing. A very fascinating experience.
Today, the Royal Wind Music is operating as a collective. The Amsterdam Conservatory is still the place where they practice and store their instruments. All programs are learned and performed by heart, creating an almost dreamlike experience for audiences.
The first time I met her in person, I was really nervous. You know, Adriana broke in, and I had maybe talked with her once on the phone when I was still a student in Germany. So I didn't really know her, but she was very direct, and she would look at you as a player. She would let you play her instruments in the workshop, and then she would look and go like, yeah, no, this instrument is not voiced right for you. You're way too low now of a player. And then she would go and work on it and give it back to you, and it was shaking when I was playing her instruments. I was so nervous. But she would have a very direct approach to you as a person and be very honest. And for me at the time, as a German student, not being in Holland for a long time, this very direct approach was a little bit intimidating first. But she meant it in a really kind way. There are about 4 or 5 different concerts of Adriana, and the big invention was actually to bring in the subcontrabass in B flat, and that was unknown. That was a real invention, a really new thing. I don't think the Royal Wind Music would be what it is without that instrument.
Shortly after, Adriana designs a recorder model with a mechanism to influence the pitch. It's loosely based on the Ganassi models, but it's also equipped with a spring-loaded pad operating a nozzle in the head of the instrument. It has both a strong and mellow sound, plus the possibility to play pianissimo as well. Adriana demonstrates it for local television.
De zijkant met een pinnetje wat open en dicht gaat. En als het pinnetje helemaal omhoog is de toon een kwarttoon hoger. Als die dicht is de toon normale hoogte. Dus dan kan je dat met elkaar compenseren.
Ja.
En dan kan je zelf dat dan mee spelen.
Is het ontdekking van de eeuw?
Dat weet ik niet hoor, maar het is al heel leuk.
Ja.
Major firm Muck adopts the design and starts its production. As slide recorder, it goes to customers in 2000. But despite praise and promising possibilities, demand proves extremely limited. According to recorder maker Alec Loretto, because the majority of people playing recorder have little interest in difficult to control extras. A big dream of Adriana is that children should start on a really good but still affordable recorder. A valuable instrument with a sound that you can take seriously right from the beginning. She describes it. I feel like a writer who, after writing many books, finally dares to write a children's book. Her intention is to inspire children, adding colors and decorations to it, and she proposes her design to Muck. Teachers trying out the prototype are enthusiastic about its sound and larger finger holes, but Muck doubts there is a market for it. Producing it for a reasonable price seems impossible, and on top of that, it looks like a toy rather than a serious instrument. Adriana contacts another German firm making recorders, which is based in Fulda, Mollenhauer.
Also die Idee bezog sich nicht nur auf den Klang, der einfach weicher sein sollte, sondern da es ja eine gute Blockflöte schon für Kinder sein sollte, war das Äußere natürlich auch wichtig. Und so hat Adri auch die Idee gehabt, Farbe zu verwenden und auch goldene Ringe. Und sehr nett war von Adri, dass sie uns zu Weihnachten mal diese Karte geschenkt hat. Hier wird schon deutlich, dass Adri auch die Fantasie der Kinder beflügeln wollte. Der Begriff Traumflöte sagt es ja schon, möchte, dass man sich in diese Welt hineinversetzt. Und das, finde ich, ist hervorragend gelungen mit den Goldringen und den kräftigen Farben.
Das war damals total ungewöhnlich.
Ja, absolut, aber ich glaube, das ist ja auch etwas, was Adri insbesondere ausgezeichnet hat, dass sie gerne neue Wege gegangen ist, und wir sind auch ein bisschen stolz, dass sie letzten Endes dann zu uns, zu Mollenhauer, damit gekommen ist mit dieser Idee.
So Adriana had the idea to make something more or less in the Renaissance style, so instruments with a wider bore that give a rounder sound, blend or mix very well with other instruments, because children love to play together, also in the classroom. So if, let's say, 5 till 30 people are playing together, this is good if it mixes very well. And if it also looks prettier. So at first she started with the idea to use ornaments, flowers, symbols children might like. And then of course she came up with the idea of colors, and not only colors but also with silver or gilded rings. So this was the idea, because you simply do not just hear the instrument, but of course there's you also see the instrument, and that should be also pleasant and lovely and nice.
Why was it called the Dream Recorder?
I think children love to dream, and so children should be inspired when starting a new instrument, and I think that's a really very imaginative name and a very nice name, to dream with the music.
From handmade to factory-made is a complicated process. The final design needs to be converted into digital instructions for computer-controlled machines. These machines perform the basic work an individual maker would need much more time for. It's repeating perfection. Fascinating to witness the head joint of a dream recorder being made with a large amount of different tools, leaving the manual work for the finishing stages only.
Die Traumflöte wurde schon wenige Wochen, nachdem wir sie auf den Markt gebracht haben, zu einem großen Erfolg, weil die Leute ganz einfach gemerkt haben, dass das jetzt wirklich mal ein ganz anderer Ansatz, klanglich, aber natürlich auch von ihrer äußeren Gestaltung ist. Und das hat auch fortgeschrittene Spieler wirklich sehr interessiert.
Und war es auch geschäftlich ein Erfolg?
Das absolut. Die Traumflöte erfreut sich wirklich nach wie vor größter Beliebtheit, und es sind ja auch schon unzählig viele davon hergestellt worden.
Unzählig viele bedeutet?
Es sind mittlerweile schon über 100.000.
I've been a professional player for 40 years nearly now, and I think, if I hadn't met Adriana, I actually think that I might have come to the end of my recorder journey maybe 15, 20 years ago. When I started off and heard those first recordings of Bruggen and all of those great masters, of course this was on record, and so everything was intensified when you're listening to it really close. And I was so in love with that sound, the flexibility and the beauty of it. And so when I started off, I was a little bit disappointed when I picked up real recorders and had to play them in real circumstances. They never made enough noise for me, because I think I had in my mind this really close-up, expressive sound. And so I think it's been a lifelong quest to find a way to reproduce that sound in real life, in a real concert situation. So of course, like everybody else, when I started playing a recorder seriously, then I got a Baroque pitch alto recorder, which has a nice sort of sweet tone. But I was always blowing against it. I was always trying to blow harder, and people would tell me, no, you're overblowing, don't play a recorder like that, just a bit more flauto dolce. And so I had to sort of back off a bit. And for my whole professional life, I've been, I think, looking for an instrument that can express that feeling I had inside me all those years ago. And I've been through many, many different recorders over the decades. And really, it was only when I met Adri, or particularly when Adri started producing these strange modern instruments that we see here, that I really felt I was able to get that voice out and project it to the world. So it was a very wonderful sort of coming together of our dreams. And I had a lot of discussions with Adriana, because I used to meet her at exhibitions around the continent. And she was also on this same quest. We'd often talk about we want to make it bigger. Adri had this dream of a recorder soaring over a symphony orchestra. And so this was like a constant quest for her. What could she do to the recorder to make it even bigger? Now, what many people who are modernising the instruments tried is they worked on the harmonic recorder concept, which is where the bore is a little bit extended. It's still a narrow Baroque bore, it's extended a bit, and this brings the bottom notes fully in resonance. So we have loud bottom notes. And there are a number of makers who tried this. But Adri wanted to take a completely different approach. What she did was she started with more the dimensions of a Renaissance recorder, which this is an example of a Ganassi type recorder, which had a very, very wide, almost cylindrical bore. And she wanted to take that principle and turn it into a Baroque or even a modern recorder. So the Eagle started off looking like this. Now this is I think one of the very early models. Now I was at an exhibition in Germany, I think it was, and I walked past her stand one day and she thrust this into my hand and said, "Play this, this is my new invention, this is the Eagle." And you know, I'd seen lots of Adri's inventions before and they didn't all necessarily work, but they were all fantastic because they were a product of her really fertile imagination, her desire to bring something down into the world that she could sort of hear from some other realm. So she handed me this and I blew a few notes. As you see, it is ridiculously fat, it has really big finger holes, but it doesn't have very much of a range. And then it stops there, so you can't even get above a high D. And so, you know, I played it and said, "Yep, thanks, Adri, that's very nice, but you know, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. It's you know, it's too limited." But she was, "No, I really feel it. This is the new sound. This is going to be an instrument to improvise on freely and to do meditation music." And you know, she was full of enthusiasm. So, you know, I didn't think much more of it. And then a couple of years later, I had a package came in the post, and it contained 3 instruments that looked a bit like this. This isn't actually one of them, but it's close. And this is her new Eagle recorder. And so I thought, wow, okay, I'll give it a go. And so I played it. I thought, wow, that's an incredible sound. Then I tried to play up high, and again, any note above a D didn't sound at all. And this is why she had this little key put on here, which opens a hole in the head joint, and that enabled the high notes to sound. But unfortunately, it involved having to twist your wrist in a very awkward fashion, which meant that it made all sorts of music really difficult to play, because we get so used to our standard playing technique. So I said, yeah, it's a fantastic instrument, but I'm afraid it's not going to catch on because no one's going to want to do that. And again, I was in complete silence from Adri for about a year. And then I got this email that said, it said F, yes. And it was, she's got the top F to sound. And it was fantastic. And this is because of this invention here, which is a metal labium. And so before that, it was made just out of wood, like a normal recorder, like this one. And then she'd, working together with Gary Bollinger, a Swiss recorder maker, they came up with this idea of the metal labium. And for some reason, this solved the problem. And now we could get the high notes without using this key. And so this was a revelatory moment when this happened, and I thought, no, this is actually something, this is really going to work. There were lots of problems with it. Even though it's a fantastic instrument, I had, in real life, in concert situations, I'd have difficulty with some of the high notes, and every time Adri had a new innovation for me, she'd be really proud of it, she'd hand it to me, and I'd go away and try it, and then I'd have to write and say, actually, you know, it's not quite working, I had a bit of a problem in a concert in Arizona and my high D disappeared or whatever it was. And so, you know, and all the time there'd be a little silence from her, and then another head joint would arrive the next day or a few weeks later. And so she was constantly working on that. And I think it was a very honest relationship we had, because, you know, I would tell her exactly the problems that I had and where I felt she needed to go. And often she would be quite disappointed, but then she always thanked me for it, because she would then go away and make some more adjustments. And it was incredible. You know, every time I thought, well, this is probably a limit to the physics of the instrument. She's simply not going to be able to solve this. But each time she managed it. And when I used to go and work with her in her workshop, I was always amazed by what she would do. If I was like, there's a problem with a high D, I would think, well, what are you going to do? You're going to change something up here? And she said, no, it's a finger hole down here. I need to just angle it down differently. And she would. And then, wow, it would just suddenly there the note was pinging out. So
she was frantically working, actually.
Yeah, all the time. You know, because she had such a vision. This was the amazing thing about Adri. It was like, you know, I often think it's like this literally dropped down to her from another realm. I think her mission on this planet was to produce this instrument, was to take the sound of the recorder and just make it bigger and more expansive. And I genuinely think she really achieved that. What amazed me is the amount of detail. I would have thought, okay, just make it bigger and it will sound louder, and that's simple, but it's not like that at all. It's microscopic detail, right the way from the top to the bottom of the instrument. And every tiny thing can make a difference, and it's like just refining and refining, so eventually you end up with, hopefully, the perfect, or near perfect instrument as you can get.
One of the best things about Sweden and the academic climate is that education is free. Like you, I have traveled a lot and taught many places. I was in Bremen, I was at Trinity College in London, 4 conservatoires in Denmark, in Gothenburg. I'm here now. To have these facilities makes it much easier to be a teacher. What happened was that I walked into an exhibition. I clearly remember when I walked past 2 ladies sitting close to each other at 2 tables. It was Bodil Diesen and Adriana Bröking. And in front of Adri there was a very, very strange looking recorder, thick as a baseball bat, you know, with keys on it. And I thought, what is this? I hadn't followed the development for years. I said, oh, this is an eagle recorder. Eagle recorder? What's that? Yes, I imagine that it's hovering up high above everything else with a fantastic view of the musical landscape. I said, okay, let's try this instrument. I played 1 note and it was like, bah! All activity in the room stopped. And I asked Adri, of course, what is this? I need one. I want one immediately. Yes, you can take this. She managed to make a very loud instrument, but still a recorder. It sounds like a beautiful recorder, but very loud. Loudness is important when you deal with modern instruments. There's no way you can cooperate with them otherwise. The sound of the eagle is what attracted me the most. It was loud. I'm a loud person. I like loud instruments, loud music, and I could be there. I could be a part of that. It was a great experience for the first time. I went home with my trophy, and I realized there's no music for this. What can I play? So I mailed her. I said, Adri, is there any repertoire for this instrument? Well, to be honest, not so much. That's really your task. Yeah. She told me, well, there's this one guy, Giel Meijering, who has started to compose for the eagle. I said, Giel Meijering, wow, but that's a big shot in my world.
I like the sound, and I'm working with samples that Adriana made for me. In 2012 or 11, I got a mail from Adriana, and she asked me if I was interested in writing for the Eagle recorder. And she knew Dan Loren from Sweden, and that he was also interested. And I wrote a concerto for him for strings and eagle.
So I wrote him a mail, Mr. Meijering, I heard that you have some pieces for the Eagle recorder. And then he said, immediately responding, as he always is, you mail him and the next second you have an answer. Here's the score for a piece I composed for the Eagle recorder and strings. I think this one was called Eagles Mostly Fly Alone or something like that. And it was a fantastic piece.
And he liked it very much, and because of his enthusiasm I wrote another one and another one.
So he started to send me like one recorded concerto a week. So we decided to put up a program for recording. I got an orchestra in Norway, chamber orchestra, 18 players, quite big, to do this. And it was an adventure to have this instrument sound with others for the first time. And I remember I went from the first rehearsal with tears of joy, I have to add, down my cheeks.
So we recorded that I think in 2012. So we went to Norway and had a recording session with the eagle, and also we used the soprano eagle then. Oh, it could easily compete with the strings, yes.
For me as a player, it was always important to have the option of appearing in as many contexts as possible. It's a survival strategy. But not only that, it's also that I love so much different music, styles of music. And the voice is important there. The right recorder for Fnac, the right recorder for Ganassi, the right recorder for a contemporary concerto. It's important. I have 2 concerti. There is a horribly difficult and tough one by the Italian composer Vito Palumbo, who composed a giant concerto on my request. It's a fantastic piece, but it took me 3 years to learn. My contact with Vito Palumbo was on a daily basis during this process. He would send sketches and suggestions, and we would talk a lot about it. I knew some of his compositions, and there were elements I wanted included in my concerto as well. And he did that in the most brilliant and beautiful way. The triumph of my life. Technically, the challenge was enormous. And also to get into a new soundscape with the instrument and find its balance with 80 other musicians. There are so many colors, there's so much for a recorder player like me to get used to. I'm inside a bloody synthesizer with all sorts of sounds and timbres and expressions. To match that and to accept it. The eagle is absolutely instrumental in this case. I hadn't been able to get a work like this with this kind of instrumentation and orchestra around me. It was crucial for me. So my attempt to enter that stage, to develop my own expression in new ways, to work with this mass of sound, for me it was a personal triumph. I wish that I had been able to do this more times.
Stefan. Hi.
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 Well, our first encounter was, of course, in Stockstadt. I was teaching at a music school, and my first time I read about her was as she developed the Traumflöte for Mollenhauer. And I played on it and thought, okay, this is exciting. It's very good recorders for small human beings. And that was sort of the first time I read it, and the first time I got to see her, I remember playing on an Eagle soprano recorder, and Adriana was really annoyed and really didn't understand how this person can't play on a soprano eagle recorder. I was in this power phase. I wanted everything to be extremely loud, and I played actually rather like an elephant on this eagle soprano recorder. And she sort of looked, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do, no. And I couldn't play properly on it, and then she thought, he can't be very talented, she told me afterwards. And then somehow I got more into playing with modern orchestras, and I listened to Dunn's recording of the Palumbo concerto, and I thought, oh yeah, it's time to get to this world again. And I ordered an eagle, and I played on it, and yeah, I was perhaps less of an elephant, more into finding also piano and also dolce sounds. And yeah, I fell in love with this instrument, and then we actually spent days together in Fulda at the Blockflötenparadies with the Kunats, and I thought, can we change this? Can we change that? Is that possible? It was like throwing a ball to each other.
In 2008, when Adriana is developing her Eagle recorder, she gets help from Geri Bollinger, who's designing the complicated keywork for it. 6 years later, recorder manufacturer Kuhn takes the instrument into production. Mutual relations, however, become increasingly difficult, and after a good year, Adriana decides to team up with Kunat Instrumentenbau, who have their production facility at the outskirts of Fulda.
We had been able to buy this hall 15 years ago, and at the beginning I thought we will never fill the space here. And now it's completely filled. Could be that in the next years we will make the house bigger. Adriana changed the recorder world for players and for makers with the clear sentence, we have to bring the instrument in the future. We do not only have to copy the past things, we have to add new ideas to the old ideas. We have to combine them in a clever way to keep the instrument alive. Let's add new things to the old instrument. Not that the old things are bad, but they need to be improved because every day is a little bit more history, a little bit more future. So if we want to take the recorder into the future, then we had to add new ideas. I think this is I never saw this until now at any other workshop, that it's that creative like Adriana had been. New ideas need markets and exhibitions like Bad Kissingen or Liefam in London or Utrecht or the Musikfestival. They are very, very important because if there's an instrument maker with a new idea, how should he come in contact with the players to see how do they react to the idea I have? How do they play with my instrument? Exhibitions give the room and the space to come in contact players with makers, and this is very important.
Adriana's Bassano Quartet plays an essential role in her professional life. It's vital for her as a player and simultaneously functions as a testing laboratory for her recorders.
Ze speelde vaak de bas, of de lagere fluiten. En dan heb je minder noten, dan heb je meer kans om op andere spelers te letten. Dus ze stond vaak echt achter haar bas en dan zag je er kijken, zo rondkijken van... Waarom klinkt die fluit zo? En dan zei ze dan ook van, moet ik iets aan die fluit doen? En waarom klinkt het zo? En dan ging ze soms terug naar de werkplaats en dan hoorden we... En dan ging ze even iets aan die fluit doen. En soms moesten we echt zeggen van, nee, laat me even niks aan die fluit doen. We moeten het eerst spelen. hoe moet ik zeggen, maar als Adrie dus een bovenstem speelde, zoals later in Haydn, en dan speelde ze dat op haar eagle, de bovenstem. En dan zag je dat je zag een hele sterke een concentratie als ze aan het spelen was, op wat ze aan het doen was. Dat vond ik altijd heel mooi. Dan was ze echt helemaal gefocust aan het spelen en dan zag je er zo helemaal de klankbeeld wat ze in de hoofd had verwezenlijken. En daar was ze echt ontzettend goed in. Dus ze was misschien niet de meest virtuoze speler die een ingewikkeld Vivaldi-concert gaat spelen. Maar die klank, dat kon ze ontzettend goed.
Ik denk dat ik nooit met pensioen ga, dat ik altijd blijf zoeken.